Hello, I am Mark with Aquarian Christianity. My channel is Aquarian Christianity. My name is Mark. It is October 13th, 2023. I thought I'd do this video. I've been thinking about this for a long time. I got a new video light, which is really just a lamp because my old video light broke. Dr. Dawkins is smart, right? We can all agree on that. You don't have to be an atheist, which seems like the main thing he's known for is atheism, to understand that Dr. Dawkins is smart. I never saw his degree. I believe that if he's a professor at Oxford, the best university in the world, he's smart. But he knows some basic things, and he's smart enough to know that matter can neither be created nor destroyed, but it just changes form. So here are some questions for Dr. What is his name? Dr. Dawkins. I want to say Dawson. He says nothing exploded and that's how we all got here. Well, Dr. Dawkins knows matter can neither be created nor destroyed, but just changes form. The third law of thermodynamics. I am not a physicist. I have a minor in biology. We talked about evolution. There was no proof given for it at all. It was just, here's the information, memorize, spit it out for the test. And I was careful how I worded one of my answers. But I took a class on evolution. Matter can either be created or destroyed. So if he says nothing exploded, and somebody, supposedly a Christian, said, listen to the audience, and the audience was laughing, nothing exploded. Because physically, if you have nothing, just nothing at all, it can't explode. Does that make sense? It's kind of like saying I struck a match, but there was no match, and it lit on fire. The match that was not there lit on fire. Basic stuff. Dr. Dobson understands this. Basics physics. I've taken one course in physics. It was physics for poets in high school. I'm not a physicist. But a question for Dr. Dawkins is, if nothing exploded, how did that happen? How can something explode out of something that doesn't exist? And he said, well, it was. They were laughing, and he said, well, it wasn't nothing. Okay, so something exploded. It must have been a very big thing or very compact thing, and it must have been not just the opposite of nothing, basically, almost the opposite of nothing exploded. Where did that come from? And it was just always there. Well, why? Wouldn't it say that there was if there was something there, if there was the nothing was, he's making a postulate that is illogical. Nothing and something cannot be the same thing. Basic logic. Nothing cannot be something. A cat cannot be a dog. A house cannot be a tire. Nothing cannot create something. And he says it wasn't nothing, okay? What was it? Okay, it was some big mass. Because all this stuff is a lot of mass. It might have been very small, but it was a lot of mass. So, okay. So you have to start with something. Where did something come from? See, there are people. I read a magazine one time. I read the cover of a magazine, some type of scientific magazine They always appeal to science, such as global warming, which I might debunk in a future video, or evolution, which they put up frauds for. It can also be debunked by simple genetics. For example, a single-celled organism cannot become a multi-celled organism, or a single-cell DNA cannot, a single chromosome, a single chromosome of DNA cannot become a multiple chromosomes of DNA and pass that on, because the DNA is what everything is built off of. So you can't make a single-celled organism become a multi-celled organism. Yet we have single-celled organisms and multi-celled organisms. How do they reproduce? We reproduce by cellular division, gametic cellular division, and you've got one chromosome, another chromosome. It can't produce 46 chromosomes or whatever, 23 chromosomes for the human being. Where do these chromosomes come from? But very basic, where did space and time come from? Dr. Dawkins works in space and time. Physics does not happen in a vacuum, it happens in space and time. So, where did the matter come from that Dr. Dawkins is talking about, that he says is both nothing and something? How much money do you have? Nothing. And somebody says, well, we can't buy anything with no money unless we barter. And then he says, well, it's $1 million. So, well, I thought you said it was nothing. Basic logic. I mean, a child can understand this stuff. Nothing is not something. So my question to Dr. Dawkins is, where did the nothing come from that you say is something? Just basic logic, a child can understand it. Where did the nothing come from that you say is something? And I've got Dr. Dawkins' book, The God Delusion. I'm planning on reading that eventually. It's not high on my list, but I want to do a video, a Christian review of Dr. Dawkins' book. I don't know what I'll encounter, but it ought to be interesting, maybe. I might not read the whole book, but I'll get into it a little bit. Where did space and time come from? I'm speaking, it's digitally recording on the chip in my camera. I'm not an electrician. I'm not a engineer either. But my voice is coming out. How is that coming out? Vibration of molecules in the air. You can't scream in no air. You have to have air to scream. You have to have air to speak. Where are the what is, where did space and time come from? Where did the properties of physics come from? You can't study something when there's nothing. There had to have been something. So there must be a creator. You can't have something with no creator. You can't have time and space without a creator. You can't have hydrogen exploding without a physical reason for it to explode. It explodes because, as far as my understanding, the electron gets loose from the nucleus, and the nucleus is proton and neutron, I think, or maybe it's just proton. I think it's just proton and electron. That's hydrogen. It explodes because there's a disturbance molecularly. That's why the Hindenburg exploded. The Germans, as smart as they are and as good as they are with technology, should have known you don't fill a balloon with hydrogen. It's too unstable. It has one electron and one proton. It's too unstable. Where did all this come from? I was listening to Star Trek, and it was a great quote, and I might check it who said it. I don't know who said it. But Jean-Luc Picard, the character Jean-Luc Picard, played by Patrick Stewart, said, well, you've exhausted all other possibilities. the last remaining possibility is the truth. However, the last remaining possibility, however unlikely, is the truth. We look at society. You know, society is allergic to the truth. It always has been, but it's getting recalcitrant about the truth. You know, well, you can't say this is true, you can't say that is true. You know, truth is irrelevant, or truth is relative. Where did truth come from? How do we know certain things are true? You know, science will say this is scientifically proven. Well, does that mean it's true? What makes it true? How do we have a choice whether to follow Christ, to be an atheist? How do we have a choice to be a Buddhist? How do we have a choice to be a communist? And atheism and communism go hand in hand. How do we have these choices? If we're just physical things that have a heartbeat, that move around, and that's how we know we're alive or move around, biological science says we're alive because there's brain activity, because the heart beats, because we breathe, because we act, we're alive. Or because a tree grows, it's alive. How do we make that distinction? Is that not based on truth? If I see a tree growing, or it's green, it's not wilted, I say it's alive. How do I know that? How can I make that assertion? If I pour vinegar on baking soda, it fizzles. Is it alive? It's moving. Tree or leaf in the wind, it's moving. Is it alive? How do we know? How do we know there's any truth whatsoever? All right. God bless you. This was a rebuttal of Dr. Dawkins. God bless.